Hi everyone, and welcome back to Deja Vu. I want to say thank you to my subscribers, and those that have been watching. Today I will be sharing the top 10 scary and creepy serial killer movies of all time, so if you're in the mood to watch serial killer movies that would give you a scare, or make you think twice before jogging or walking at night, I believe I have the movies for you to watch. And like always, I will try to post new content 1 to 2 times a week. So, if you're a fan of creepy, scary, and history stories, I believe I have it here. With all that said, sit back, relax, and stay away from those dark corners, literally. Thank you.
Number 10. Manhunter, 1986, is a psychological thriller film directed by Michael Mann, based on the novel Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. It's about Will Graham, a former FBI criminal profiler who is drawn out of retirement to track down a serial killer known as the Tooth Fairy.
Teeth looked like. The Smithsonian in Washington reconstructed these from the impressions that we took of the bite marks on the Leeds woman here and the Jacoby woman in Birmingham last month. As you can see, he has pegged lateral incisors, that's these teeth here and here.
All right, Bison Narcotics, you take the KY Cowboys and the leather bars. Marcus Whitman heads up at the funeral. The rest of your assignments are on the sheet. Let's go. One more thing. I've heard officers referring to this killer as the Tooth Fairy. Yeah, well, I don't want to hear that in public, and I don't want to see it in internal memoranda. That's it.
The killer is notorious for murdering entire families during the full moon and leaving bite marks on his victims. Graham is uniquely talented at getting into the minds of criminals, but this case forces him to confront his own past demons, including an encounter with the cannibalistic serial killer Dr. Hannibal Lecktor, whom Graham captured previously. This encounter nearly cost Graham his life and left him deeply traumatized. To catch the Tooth Fairy, Graham must once again engage with Lecktor, who is now incarcerated, and navigate the psychological toll that such cases take on him.
Did you get my card?
I got it, thank you.
And how is Officer Stewart? The one who was first to see my basement.
Stuart's fine.
Emotional problems, I hear. Do you have any problems, Will?
No.
No. Of course you don't. I'm glad you came. My callers are mostly clinical psychologists from Cornfield University somewhere. Second-raters, the lot.
Dr. Bloom showed me your article on surgical addiction in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry.
And?
Very interesting. Even to a layman. I want you to help me, Dr. Lecktor.
I thought so.
It's about Atlanta and Birmingham.
Yes?
You read about it?
In the papers. I don't tear out the articles. I wouldn't want them to think I was dwelling on anything more they do.
The film is known for its intense atmosphere, stylized visuals, and the psychological depth it brings to the characters, especially the parallels drawn between Graham and the killers he hunts. Despite a poor box office performance upon its release, Manhunter has gained a cult following over the years and is appreciated for its acting and visual style. Number 9. The movie Magic, 1978, is a psychological horror drama directed by Richard Attenborough and stars Anthony Hopkins, Anne Margaret, and Burgess Meredith. The film is based on a novel by William Goldman, who also wrote the screenplay. The plot centers around Charles Corky Withers, portrayed by Anthony Hopkins, who initially fails as a professional magician. After being advised by his mentor to find a better gimmick, Corky returns as a magician ventriloquist with a foul-mouthed dummy named Fats, which leads to his success. However, Corky suffers from severe mental issues and struggles to control Fats, who is a manifestation of his ID. Corky's agent tries to sign him for a television show, but Corky flees to avoid a medical examination that could reveal his mental state. He retreats to the Catskills, where he reconnects with his high school crush, Peggy and Snow. A series of events lead to Corky's jealousy and paranoia taking a dark turn, with Fats convincing him to commit murder. The film explores themes of identity, control, and the blurred lines between reality and illusion, as Corky's grip on sanity slips and Fat's influence grows stronger. It's a chilling tale that delves into the psyche of a troubled individual and the consequences of unchecked mental illness.
When your heart begins to pound, when your mind begins to go, keep telling yourself, it's only a movie.
You do magic too?
Corky does magic. I only do tricks.
There's never been a magician like him. How long you been like this, kid?
You never really told why you were here.
Hiding. Was in bad shape in New York. You want success, but you're afraid of it.
I figured I'd stop by here and ask you folks about you. Not afraid.
Where were you living? What city? How many kids?
I'm not afraid.
Never expected to find you. I've loved you all my damn life.
I won't be here! Hey. I was afraid of success, like you said. I needed to get my head on straight.
And now you're fine?
Sure, on account of Peg. I've known her ever since high school. I figured I'd have a chance with her.
Peggy, no, please, let me follow. Wherever you go.
That she'll me take her.
I love Peg.
Just the two of us. Now everything's changed. She believes in me.
A man appears after 15 years. Says run away with me.
Don't do it. Oh, please, don't kill her. No, I can't do it! I won't do it! You can't make me!
Magic.
Number 8. Pieces is a 1982 Spanish-American slasher film directed by Juan Piquer Simón. The movie's plot revolves around an unknown assailant who is targeting female students at a college campus in Boston. The killer gruesomely murders the students and uses their body parts to assemble a human jigsaw puzzle. The story begins in 1942 when a young boy, Timmy Reston, is reprimanded by his mother for playing with a jigsaw puzzle of a nude woman. In a fit of rage, he unalives her with an axe and dismembers her body. 40 years later, the now-grown Timmy is triggered by a series of events that led him to start murdering again, continuing his gruesome puzzle-making with the body parts of his victims. The film is known for its graphic violence and has gained a cult following over the years. It was also part of the video nasty controversy in the UK, where it was seized and confiscated under the Obscene Publications Act 1959. Despite its controversial nature, Pieces remains a memorable entry in the horror genre for its shocking and explicit content. Number 7. The movie Peeping Tom is a 1960 British psychological horror thriller film directed by Michael Powell. The story revolves around Mark Lewis, a young man who works as a focus puller in a British film studio and moonlights taking risque photos for a local shop. Mark is also a serial killer who murders women while using a portable film camera to record their dying expressions of terror. He then compiles this footage into a snuff film for his own twisted gratification. The film delves into Mark's psyche, revealing that as a child, he was subjected to his father's psychological experiments on fear, which have left him deeply disturbed.
And that thing. He was interested in the reactions of the nervous system to fear.
Fear?
Fear.
His interactions with Helen Stevens, a sweet-natured young woman living in the flat below his, and his struggle with his compulsions form a significant part of the narrative. Peeping Tom was controversial at the time of its release due to its subject matter, and it received harsh criticism that negatively impacted Powell's career. However, it has since gained a cult following and is now considered a classic and a precursor to the slasher film genre. Number 6. The movie Psycho, which was also released in 1960, is a classic horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock. This movie is considered a serial killer movie because it focuses on the character of Norman Bates, who exhibits classic traits of a fictional serial killer. The film's narrative reveals that Bates, under the delusion that he is his mother, has committed multiple murders at the Bates Motel. The horror and suspense of the film are rooted in the psychological profile of Bates, his complex relationship with his mother, and the gruesome nature of the crimes he commits.
This is his hideaway. His hobby, as you see, was taxidermy. Crow here, an owl there. Now, an important scene took place in this room. There was a private supper here. And, oh, by the way, this picture has great significance because, let's go along to cabin number 1. I want to show you something there. All tight. Well, they cleaned all this up now. Big difference. You should have seen the blood. The whole place was, well, it's too horrible to describe. Dreadful. And I'll tell you, there's a very important clue was found here. Down there. Well, the murderer, you see, crept in here very slowly. Of course, the shower was on, there was no sound, and
the film's impact on the horror genre was profound, as it introduced audiences to a new kind of terror, one that comes from within the human psyche rather than supernatural elements. Norman Bates is a disturbed individual whose actions are driven by a fractured identity and a compulsion to kill. This portrayal of a serial killer was groundbreaking for its time and set the stage for future films in the slasher and psychological thriller genres. The movie's ability to scare viewers without relying on traditional monsters or demons, but rather on the twisted humanity of its antagonist, is what makes it a seminal work in the serial killer subgenre. The chilling realization that the monster is, in fact, a seemingly ordinary person with a deeply troubled mind, is a concept that continues to resonate in horror cinema.
Before we continue to number 5, please join me and the rest of my friendly subscribers and subscribe to my channel, so you will never miss any of my newly uploaded videos. And if you haven't already done so, please punch that like button, and kick a comment down below. Thanks. And let's continue.
Number 5. The Zodiac, 2007, movie, is a neo-noir true crime thriller directed by David Fincher, based on the non-fiction books Zodiac, 1986, and Zodiac Unmasked, 2002, by Robert Graysmith. The film stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert Downey Jr., among others. The plot revolves around the manhunt for the Zodiac Killer, a serial killer who terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area during the late 1960s and early 1970s. The killer taunted police with letters, blood-stained clothing, and ciphers mailed to newspapers. The story follows the investigators and reporters who become obsessed with the case, particularly a San Francisco cartoonist named Robert Graysmith, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who becomes an amateur detective trying to solve the mystery. The film is known for its attention to detail, historical accuracy, and the chilling portrayal of one of the United States' most infamous unsolved crimes. It's a gripping tale of obsession, decoding cryptic messages, and the elusive search for a murderer who left a trail of fear and mystery. But get this. The Zodiac Killer has never been officially caught. The case remains one of the most infamous unsolved criminal mysteries in American history.
And bragged about it to police.
I once reported double murder. I also killed those 2 kitties last year. Goodbye.
It was very eerie. It's scary when a man kills and brags about it.
Is he still out there? Tonight, new clues to solve the case of the man who dressed to kill.
This is the Zodiac speaking. I like killing people because it is so much fun.
This guy is a pathological, psycho killer.
It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill. The most thrilling experience.
Those were the words of a madman who held this city hostage 30 years ago. He sent his letters to local papers who chronicled his horrible acts. It all began December 20th, 1968. Two teenagers were brutally shot at a lover's lane in Vallejo, California. For the Zodiac, it was just the beginning.
There have been significant developments over the years. A team of cold case investigators, known as the Case Breakers, claimed to have identified the Zodiac killer as Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018. They based their identification on new forensic evidence and photos from Post's darkroom, which they say match scars on a sketch of the Zodiac. Despite these claims, the FBI has stated that the case remains open, and no definitive conclusion has been reached by law enforcement agencies.
Of hits each week, while shows such as Millennium continue to draw on the Zodiac for their storylines.
His 8th victim was a cab driver. Lecktor shot him on a crowded street. Still covered with blood, he was seen heading into a public park.
While people disagree who the Zodiac is, here are several major clues everyone agrees on. He was stocky with short-cropped hair and wore glasses. He has a calm voice. He's intelligent. He knows codes and probably has a military background. He's an expert marksman. He's an old movie buff and likes Gilbert and Sullivan musicals. He's probably in his late 60s now. And one last note, what about the Zodiac's name? Do his identity and actions really revolve around astrology? Or as some believe, is he merely a film buff, paying homage to the 1939 movie Charlie Chan at Treasure Island?
But Dr. Zodiac not ordinary criminal. He is man of great ego, with disease known to science as pseudologia fantastica. Criminal egotists find pleasure in laughing at police.
The Zodiac is one of the most notorious killers of this century, and we could catch him tonight. You know, I always say somebody out there knows something, may have heard something. I want you to think hard about the clues you heard tonight. You can go on.
The Zodiac killer's identity remains a subject of speculation and investigation, and the official stance is that the case is still unresolved. Number 4. The movie M, 1931, is a German mystery suspense thriller directed by Fritz Lang. It stars Peter Lorre as Hans Beckert, a serial killer who preys on children. The film is an early example of a procedural drama and focuses on the manhunt for Beckert, conducted by both the police and the criminal underworld. The plot unfolds in Berlin, where the community is terrorized by a series of murders. The film opens with a group of children playing a game that includes a chant about a murderer, setting a chilling tone. The tension escalates when little Elsie Beckman disappears after being approached by Beckert, who lures her with the promise of buying a balloon. M is notable for its cinematic innovations, such as long tracking shots and the use of a musical leitmotif, In the Hall of the Mountain King, whistled by the killer. While this movie is a work of fiction, it was influenced by real-life events. It is often stated that the director Fritz Lang drew inspiration from the case of Peter Kürten, known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, who was a serial killer active in the 1920s, which I would probably do a video on him soon. But, Kürten's crimes terrorized the city of Dusseldorf and captured the public's attention, much like the fictional Hans Beckert does in Berlin within the film. I should note that this movie came out the same year Peter Kürten died. This movie also sounds like the movie, It, by Stephen King. Even though he claims that the movie, It, was inspired by a combination of influences. The movie M came out in 1931, which also revolves around children who face off against a monster that preys on the town's children, unalives them, and lures a child with a balloon. So, sounds similar to me. Tell me what you think. Number 3. Copycat is a 1995 psychological thriller film that revolves around Dr. Helen Hudson, a criminal psychologist who becomes agoraphobic after surviving an attack by a serial killer she was testifying against. Copycat is a gripping psychological thriller that delves deep into the psyche of a serial killer and the minds of those pursuing him. Here's a more detailed look at the plot. The film opens with Dr. Helen Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, a renowned expert on serial killers, giving a guest lecture at a university. After her talk, she is attacked in the restroom by Darrell Lee Cullum, Harry Connick Jr., a subject of her previous studies who has escaped from prison. He kills a police officer during the attack but is subdued and taken back to prison. This traumatic event leaves Helen severely agoraphobic, and she retreats into a life of isolation in her high-tech apartment, conducting her life online with the help of her friend Andy. San Francisco becomes the hunting ground for a new serial killer, whose modus operandi involves mimicking the crimes of famous serial murderers from the past. Homicide detective M.J. Monahan, Holly Hunter, and her partner, Reuben Getz, Dermot Mulroney, seek Helen's expertise to help track down the killer. Despite her initial reluctance, Helen is drawn into the investigation as she realizes the killer is replicating the murders in the same sequence as the list of serial killers she presented during her lecture on the night she was attacked. As the investigation progresses, it becomes clear that the killer, Peter Foley, William McNamara, is not only targeting victims but also stalking Helen, turning her expertise against her. The tension escalates when the killer contacts Helen directly, and the police provide her with protection. The film becomes a tense race against time as Helen and the detectives work to predict the killer's next move and stop him before he strikes again. Copycat is notable for its intense atmosphere, complex characters, and the chilling realization that the killer is one step ahead, using Helen's own knowledge against her. The film explores themes of trauma, obsession, and the nature of evil, all while delivering a suspenseful narrative that keeps audiences guessing until the very end. Number 2. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, is a 1986 American psychological horror crime film directed by John McNaughton. The movie is known for its disturbing portrayal of the random crime spree of a serial killer who operates with impunity. It stars Michael Rooker as Henry, a nomadic killer whose character is loosely based on the real-life serial killer Henry Lee Lucas.
Did you really kill your mama?
I guess I did. You telling me you never killed anybody before?
I ain't saying that.
What do you got in mind, Henry?
What do you think? What do you say, Otis? You want to go grab a beer?
If you shoot somebody in the head with a .45 every time you kill somebody, it becomes like your fingerprint, see? But if you strangle one and stab another, and when you cut up, when you don't, then the police don't know what to do.
You guys need any help? Do you need some help, or can you do it yourself?
Must mean you go for a ride, Otis. It's always the same, and it's always different. Ain't that right?
Sure, it's good to talk to you, Henry. You're not judgmental or anything like that.
Open your eyes, Otis. Look at the world. It's either you or them.
Did I stutter? Give me the $50 and get out!
Don't do that, Otis. She's your sister. Otis, plug it in.
The plot follows Henry as he murders scores of people, men, women, and children, across America. He eventually settles in Chicago, where he meets up with his prison buddy Otis, and Otis's sister Becky. Henry introduces Otis to his homicidal lifestyle, and they embark on a killing spree together.
What? What's gonna happen when they find those bodies?
Nothing.
What do you mean, nothing?
That's what I said, Otis. Nothing. Nothing's gonna happen because nothing happened. And I don't know nothing about it, whatever it is. Do you?
Hey, I don't know nothing.
Good.
Oh, fuck.
Feeling better?
Yeah.
You want some fries?
The film explores the dynamics between the characters, including the complex relationship between Henry and Becky, who is unaware of the true nature of Henry and Otis's activities. The film is noted for its graphic depiction of violence and its commentary on the banality of evil. It was shot on a low budget and faced challenges in distribution due to its controversial content, but it has since gained a reputation as a cult classic for its unflinching realism and Rooker's chilling performance as Henry. Number 1. The movie, The Killer Inside Me, 2010, is a crime drama film that delves into the dark and violent nature of a seemingly respectable lawman. Set in 1952, the movie follows Deputy Sheriff Lou Ford, who is considered a pillar of his small West Texas community. However, beneath his charming exterior lies a sociopath with violent sexual tendencies. The plot thickens when Lou's past comes back to haunt him. Years earlier, he was caught assaulting a young girl, but his adopted brother Mike took the fall to protect him. After Mike's release from prison, he dies in what Lou suspects was a staged construction accident orchestrated by his employer, Chester Conway. Lou's life takes a turn when he is sent to confront Joyce Lakeland, a S-worker involved with Conway's son. Their interaction escalates into a violent affair, leading to a convoluted plot of extortion, deception, and murder. As Lou's actions lead to a series of murders, his facade begins to crumble, attracting the suspicion of his fiancée and the local district attorney. The film, directed by Michael Winterbottom and starring Casey Affleck, Jessica Alba, and Kate Hudson, is known for its graphic depiction of violence, particularly towards women, which sparked controversy upon its release.
Thank you for watching.